Thought we'd start off the weekend with something more low-key. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Um, Decided I'm going to skip most preamble in here. We're just going to go straight for the video. Looked up just let's see what Young Earth came up with as a search on YouTube, and popped up with this slightly condensed video. It's only 12 and a half minutes or so, 13 minutes, from Answers in Genesis. Young Earth versus Old Earth. Christian PhDs faced off in heated debate. Um, I don't know how much of a heated debate we're going to get in all of 12 minutes. But I guess we're just gonna see what happens.
We all know we're here for a debate about the age of the Earth.
How old do you say the Earth is?
4.5662 billion years.
God created in 6 days, about 6,000 years ago, and he destroyed the world with a global flood.
We see what appears to be a universe.
Just something to notice about creationists is they are super obsessed with the flood. I mean, we notice that, but I don't think anyone ever realizes that it's like absolutely fundamental, more fundamental than even the entire Jesus story to them. It's like Jesus is a given secondary, but that flood, oh, they gotta have that flood. They gotta prove that flood. Because that flood explains everything. As Hovind would say, the flood's the pacifier. You take it away, they just cry.
Universe that is billions of years old, but doesn't the Bible teach that the universe is just thousands of years old?
The acceptance of millions of years ends up being an assault on the very character of God.
All right, we all know we're here
Good.
for a debate about biblical inerrancy. It's important to recognize, ladies and gentlemen, that both of our distinguished debaters believe in biblical inerrancy, so that's a good thing, right? The question is, can you hold to biblical inerrancy and come to different conclusions about the age of the Earth? On the topic.
Yes, because that book can be interpreted all kinds of ways. That's all that matters is the interpretation. Their philosophy on biblical inerrancy is really irrelevant because all that it boils down to is their interpretation. Some people's interpretation just happens to include that the Bible is absolutely perfect, while others may take sections as allegory or otherwise flawed in some way. That still boils down to the interpretation. Like they try to split the two aspects up, and they're not. They're one and the same.
Does belief in inerrancy necessitate a particular view of the age of the Earth? Dr. Mortensen will argue yes, and Dr. Ross will argue no. Dr. Mortensen.
I mean, seriously, I don't know how far we're going to get in 12 minutes, but okay.
I'm going to illustrate my position by talking about the genealogies in Genesis 5 and 11. And the key to the age of the earth question is in the Genesis 5 and 11 about from the time from Adam to Abraham, which is
It's in your interpretation of what those passages actually say.
about 2,000 years if you take the genealogies as literal. Now, some people, including some creationists, say, well, there may be missing names, but these genealogies are unique in all of the Bible and all ancient Near Eastern literature because they are the only ones that contain chronological information.
All Near Eastern literature? No. No. Just no.
There might be missing names. I've read many arguments for missing names in these chapters. That's theoretically possible, but I think it's highly doubtful, and it's irrelevant to my case anyway. The real question is, are there missing years? And I would
No, the missing names would be relevant because if you're skipping a person and you just have, instead of A to B to C, you have A to C, you're cutting out a section there. That actually does matter and would result in potentially missing years. Could be an oversight, and you could just have it jump from A to C's age because, I mean, you know, parents can have kids who can grow up and have kids while the parents are still within a reasonable, reproductive age. That totally happens. So it wouldn't look weird on the chart, but it could still technically be wrong, or you could mix stuff up. I mean, there's all kinds of ways for this to not be represented correctly. But of course, you run with biblical inerrancy, so
consent? Absolutely not. And that's because the age of each patriarch is given when the next man is born. So it doesn't matter whether he was a son, a grandson, a great-grandson. The next man was born when the date was given.
Okay, I know I say a lot of stuff that you really have to read between the lines to interpret, but dude, that was word salad that makes Karl Baugh look like an eloquent Shakespearean grade author. That made no sense what you just said there.
So even if there are missing names, which I doubt in this case, there can be no missing years. Now, 6 of the 19 father-son links in Genesis 5 and 11, which go from Adam to Noah and then Shem, who was on the boat with Noah, to Abraham, they are definitely literal because of details given about them. Eve named Seth when he was born. Noah was on the boat with Shem. Terah traveled to Haran with Abraham. Jude 14 says that Enoch was the 7th from Adam. So that means all the links from Adam to Enoch were literal.
Okay, sure. I'll grant you that for your story.
And so that means that 10 links were literal in Genesis 5 and 11, and they would cover 1,536 years from the information given in those chapters. That leaves only 9 links that could possibly be non-literal, missing names, missing generations.
No, that gives 9 links that are there and an untold number that could be missing. Wow, this is top tier apologetics. You know what I'm saying? They announced this guy as a top tier or something, but if he's on AIG, he must be something good and he'd be the guy they'd align with. So I'm a little perplexed here.
Well, can we push Adam back to 10,000 years ago? I think it's highly doubtful for these reasons. Abraham was 4,000 years ago, approximately, as most Bible scholars agree. So that means that we've got to account for 6,000 years between Adam and Abraham. But we've got to subtract 1,536 years for the 10 literal links, and that leaves 4,464 years for the supposedly non-literal, which would be 496 years on average between each non-literal link.
Yes, but one, you've actually got less time to squeeze it all in, which is a benefit to you in that you have to account for the 2 millennia since the supposed birth of Jesus. But you also have to accommodate the fact that after the flood, people started living less and less, as shown in Ken Hovind's genealogy lines on paper. I mean, I know where you're going to go with this, but I still have lots of questions that you won't answer because you've already just hand-waved away. Not even hand-waved away. You just completely walked around that there's even anything there to be addressed. It'd be quite, elegant if it wasn't so obvious what you did.
Now, Noah begat Shem at 502, but all the other begetting ages were less than 100.
Michael in with a very good point. It also could all just be made up. But hey, for this video, I'm playing within his framework. But my bet would be it's all just made up.
87. Most were less than 100 years. So an average begetting age of 496 for each of the 9 supposedly non-literal links for men we know nothing about is extremely doubtful in my mind. But in Fuzz Rana and Hugh Ross's book, Who Was Adam in 2005, they said that Adam was 50 to 70,000 years ago. Let's take the average and say 60,000 years.
I'm just going to say, I've always heard it as Fuzz Rana. That's how you spell it. Fazali. Pronouncing it just as it looks. I always heard Fuzz Rana like Fuzz Rana. I don't know.
That would mean we would need to put 6,052 years between each of those non-literal links. So we've got all these 7 literal links, and then to Methuselah, we'd have to put in about 6,000 years. God's word says 65. And then from Methuselah to Lamech, another 6,000 years, but God says 157. Then we've got those literal links up through Arpachshad, but then we've got to fit in about 40,000 years.
Did that man just say Arpachshad? hang on. Let's step back a hair. I got to be that guy.
Another 6,000 years, but God says 157. Then we've got those literal links up through Arpachshad.
Yep, he sure did. Arpachshad. Okay, that's not where the P and the CH are, but you do you. You're the expert, not me.
But then we've got to fit in about 40,000 years to finish out the time to put Adam 60,000 years ago. In the 2015 edition, Dr. Rana and Ross said Adam was 100,000 to 200,000 years ago. Well, to take the average 150,000 years, we're going to have to put 16,000 years in those first two and 112,000 years between in the 7 links from Arpachshad to Terra.
What the hell is this dude even on? I'm lost. I mean, okay, I just thought about it for a second while I was laughing. So he's trying to say that the book says this, that, the other. And so he's trying to that's it. He's trying to discredit the book. Bruh, if that's not the position your opponent's taking, why are you bringing it up? Unless you can cleverly work this in as pure example to come to a solid conclusion that isn't just book is right, my interpretation is right. I don't know, man. It seems a little unnecessary. Says the king of things that are unnecessary.
Is this really the right way to interpret the inerrant Word of God? But in a 2017 debate book, Dr. Rana said that Adam was 130,000 years ago. In Navigating Genesis, Dr. Ross said in 2014 that Adam was 60 to 100,000 years ago.
See, there it is. Fuzz Rana. So it is fuzz. So wait, what was the previous spelling? Can I get a...
Those first to Terra. Is this real?
Sorry, I want to see where he shows the book again. Fazela, Rana. Fazela, but then later it says fuzz. What? I mean, you can spell your name however. I'm not criticizing that at all. Rana can spell their name however they wish, go by whatever short form they want to. I'm just confused. Just because it's like, wait, what? So, huh? I mean, that'd be like if all your life you had never heard that Dick is short for Richard or Bob is short for Robert. And then when someone tells you that, it's like, oh, crap. Like, I don't know if it's true, but apparently Topher is actually a variation on Christopher. And I learned that, and I was like, oh, wow, you just take the first bit off. Boy, that makes it sound simultaneously less stupid and more stupid as a name. But I don't know. That's just me. I don't know. This is just blowing my mind. Maybe it's too early. Maybe I've been in the weeds with XML all day, all morning, all last night. I don't know. I know I woke up early for once. I still want to go back to sleep. Anyway, let's finish this up. I'm kind of interested on where this is going. Actually, I legit kind of hate that this is only going to be like a 12-minute video because I was seriously expecting more because I do kind of like where this is going. It's a breath of fresh air.
2017 debate book, Dr. Rana said that Adam was 130,000 years ago. In Navigating Genesis, Dr. Ross said in 2014 that Adam was 60 to 100,000 years ago. And in Rescuing Inerrancy, he says Adam, he says modern...
I'll play the game that some creationists do when it comes to things like space-time, just the constant values of the universe that we know are constant when they'll claim they're not. How do you know the radioactive decay was the same? How do you know the speed of light's been the same? How do you know the length of a day is the same? I mean, all the Bible does is say in this day, in this day, in this day. I mean, it could be saying back in my day, Back in my day does not literally consist of June 21st, 1996. It encompasses a whole time period for me. Back in my day, the era of Sega Genesis and cartoons on Saturday morning and, dial-up internet was still something I just dreamed of having. Hell, didn't even have a computer. I didn't get a computer till late. I was deprived of the technological future. Anyway. And yeah, Fuzz being his nickname, that totally makes sense. It's just weird to be exposed to it.
humans were 45,000 to 250,000 years ago, unless he believes that Adam was a latecomer of modern humans, that's the spread. And so I submit to you that these books are not defending the inerrancy of Scripture. They are subtly undermining inerrancy by treating the ever-changing scientific consensus as the inerrant book of nature that should...
Oh, they just going for the classic. Science changes its mind all the time. No, the ideas are refined. They grow more and more accurate. Science doesn't change its mind like they think it does. We all know that. We all tell them that. They'll never accept that. But you just had to work that in there somewhere. Meanwhile, your book's been wrong since before it was written. How's that for failure?
be used as the 67th book to help us interpret the Bible. But this is denying, not explicitly, but indirectly, the clarity and authority of the Word of God.
If the word was so clear, there wouldn't be multiple interpretations of it. And if it was so authoritative, it would be impossible to do anything that doesn't conform to it. Indeed, living a good life wouldn't require explicitly avoiding some commands in there. So, I don't know what to tell you on that, bro.
And so if we believe the Bible is the inspired, inerrant Word of God, then I submit we must believe in young earth creationism. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mortensen. Dr.
Sure, the planet's young. It's just time moved a lot differently. And what we see now is the side effect of that. Boom, I still win. It's like my flat earth theory. So hear me out. Got a flat earth theory, all right? Instead of the North Pole based projection that the flat earthers use, it's actually South Pole is the center point. But here's the kicker. Reality is distorted in such a way that for all practicality, everything behaves as if the world is a ball in space. And you loop around at the North Pole. So it's impossible to tell. Now, this is funny. I'm going to go off on a little side tangent here because depending on how you model gravity, that's technically not wrong in a way. It's a real abstract way of thinking about it. And I just love that little having that little idea. And this is the first time I really brought it up to anyone like publicly, as you know, again, purely as a joke, but as one of those things where it's like, well, damn, oh yeah, you guys are right, but your model's wrong. I got the right model, and it just so happens it doesn't show what you want it to show. But I know my model's right because it's right. Kind of pull everyone's leg at the same time. Oh no, I think it's amusing. Also, it'd make for a good, although maybe not the everything being concordant with reality, but I'm thinking of like a flat world fantasy kind of story that has that loop around aspect. Might be kind of cool. But anyway, back to this.
Ross.
Well, over the 39 history of reasons to believe, I probably debated young Earth creationist leaders over 50 times on multiple continents. Every one of those debates, they try to say, if you believe that the Earth is 4.5662 billion years, yes, we do know it to 5 places the decimal, you must be an evolutionist. In every one of those debates, I had to make it clear, I've never been an evolutionist, I'm not an evolutionist, I'll never be an evolutionist. And
Let's show this to Hovind, since he cannot abstract the two the two chains of thought from one another. This man has successfully isolated evolution, hopefully to just its biological definition, the actual evolution that is the contentious point for creationists, and he knows to separate that from all the other aspects of science. So this dude may deny evolution, but he's definitely got some props there. Because if I had to pick the battle, it's the outright denial of the very nature of the universe that is my problem with young earth creationism. And the rejection of evolutionary principles comes in obviously a very close second. But their rejection of cosmology, of geology, that's my problem. That's my biggest beef. Ignoring the deity that obviously doesn't exist conundrum.
Billions of years is a hopelessly brief period of time to support naturalistic evolution. So, there was a debate, as I mentioned, in the early part of the 20th century. This is when astronomers, for the first time, began to discover the features of the universe, the Big Bang features that the Bible taught thousands of years ago. What does the Bible teach about the universe? That it has a beginning. That this beginning...
Oh, hell. We about to get calammed up in here. Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate how incredibly good these slides are compared to what Hovind has brought to the table? And I mean on both sides. This is so beautiful. This is better than I could do.
beginning includes a beginning of space...
Hey, look at that. That's honestly real pretty, real fitting with the theme. It's nice. I joked earlier about this being a breath of fresh air, but it really is. I could get behind watching stuff like this, but it's actually hard to find it. Partly because my YouTube recommendations are tuned towards debunkings. Like one of the videos that came up was Gutsick Gibbons' video on reasons young earth creationism is just plain wrong. I get stuff like that more than I do anything of value here. Or it's way too short of a video, or literally a short video, or it's a 5-hour-long escapade of some guys talking in a chat. And I know my videos are long, but I try to keep, entertainment going. Sitting around chatting all the time, you eventually lose me. It just happens. I'm not social. It drains the social batteries, even if I'm not participating.
in time, that the laws of physics don't change, that there's a pervasive law of decay, the second law of thermodynamics.
Here he goes, thermodynamics, and yet he's going to use it to defend old Earth. That's going to be a fascinating move.
That there's continuous cosmic expansion. When this became evident, you had people like Sir Arthur Eddington making the statement, we've got to get rid of this Big Bang because it implies a beginning, it implies only billions of years. We need infinite time to support Darwinian evolution. So he's an opponent to the Big Bang cosmology. Sir Fred Hoyle made the same comment. We can't tolerate Big Bang cosmology because it only makes the universe billions of years old. That's woefully inadequate time to support Darwinian evolution. But what happened in the latter part of the 20th century and the 21st century, the evidence for the Big Bang creation event became overwhelming. As you heard in our little...
I'm interrupting only to point out that Rosina has sent me the link to a debate between Fuzrana and Robert Sunganis. I don't actually know how to pronounce that last name. That should be pretty damn interesting to watch. And it's on SFT, so I don't know why I sounded excited on that, but I mean, at least it's going to be watchable. I'm not a fan of Donnie, but his stuff's watchable. He knows how to put on a debate. So I'll give him that all day long.
Debate. The accuracy with which been able to determine the age of the universe went from 16 plus or minus 4 billion years to now down to 13.79 plus or minus 0.04 billion years. So we got an increasingly accurate date, increasingly telling us that the more we learn about the universe, the more clear it becomes there isn't enough time for Darwinian evolution. Okay, let me try to get this part up. Okay.
Oh yeah, this guy's still, as was said earlier, slightly older young Earth, as opposed to ridiculous. So, is what it is. If he wants to think evolution takes way longer than is even possible, he's wrong, but at least he's thinking. It's me. I would say that's me being generous. I'm not sure if it is or not. At least he's thinking. I don't know.
Ice cores. There are 3 in northern Greenland and 3 in central Antarctica, and they show 800,000 years of...
I just want to point out I hate when people say that.
In central Antarctica.
Antarctica. I hate that. Antarctica. The antipode of the Arctic. You don't say Arctica. I've maybe only a couple of times ever heard somebody say Arctica, or yeah, Arctic, and that was like kids. Generally, people seem to say Arctic okay, but for some reason, when it's Antarctica, they never pronounce the C. They never hit the cuss sound. Try harder, guys. Try harder.
And they show 800,000 years of annual layers. We know the layers must be annual because they reveal volcanic eruptions and 8 cycles of Earth's orbital eccentricity variation. So, for example, we can see the dust signature of all the Vesuvius volcano eruptions. We can see the eruption of Krakatoa. We can count the number of years over the past.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing a creationist actually use science and be somewhat correct in at least supporting his idea. Obviously, not saying he's right at all, but so far, so good. This is a scary moment, people.
3,000 years of these different eruptions. The number of layers between the dust signatures of these eruptions is exactly the number we see in the history of the calendar of when these events.
Sungenus. Okay, so it's properly soft G like in GIF.
Took place. As an astronomer, something more distinctive, we actually see 8 cycles of the variation of the eccentricity of Earth's orbit in these cycles, basically establishing we really are looking at 800,000 years of past history of the Earth. And you say, well, maybe we got all the physics wrong about the orbit of the Earth, about the sun. Now you got to throw in Newtonian mechanics. And Newtonian mechanics is probably the best established physics we have today. And so,
And it's wrong. It works on the low on broad enough scales, but technically speaking, Newtonian mechanics is wrong. Here's the screwed up part. That means that at a point, calculus is wrong. Because calculus was specifically derived by Newton as a way to mathematically model the effects of Newtonian mechanics. He had to come up with math to define this stuff. And I just love that technically speaking, at a certain scale, calculus is wrong. I mean, at a certain scale, excuse me, all math breaks down. But with calculus, it comes a lot closer than, the rate of gravitational singularities or something. So I just find that amusing.
So you really have to argue that the record of nature is flawed in its capacity to reveal any reality about the truth of nature. That's not what the Bible tells us. The Bible tells us repeatedly that the record of nature is a faithful, trustworthy book, telling us not only about the attributes of God, but also about the nature of the realm of the life and stars and galaxies that we see here. And notice that all of these ice cores tell us that we're looking at an Earth that must be more than 100,000 years old, and with no exceptions, all reliable.
Well, they need to stop their reductions. We must speak as must speak as obtusely as possible for the greater good of all of society. Now I sound like a poorly dubbed kaiju film.
Scientific age measuring tools confirm that the universe and the Earth are billions of years old. Way too little time for evolution, but adequate time to ensure we get all the resources we humans need.
Dogwalker's got a good point. They're the ones who made up the language, so if they want to drop the vocalizations of some sounds, the sounds are still in there. It's what? It's like some of the sounds in Arabic, like a friend of mine I worked with at Toys R Us. He was trying to teach me how to pronounce his actual name, and I kept just failing at a sound that is basically a guttural stop, but isn't the same as any others that I'm used to. And I felt terrible because I just couldn't get it. I would want to pause and then pause again, but I was only supposed to pause once. It was weird. Don't think I ever got it down. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes you just take things out of there when you speak, but Antarctica just really bugs me because it's just it's one of those things. You're talking about something you want to be more precise in. I would expect you to be more precise in how you're talking. You know, how I slip in and out of the Memphis accent versus my more refined way of speaking when I need to. That's just me. I don't know. I don't know what language has to do with the age of the earth, but here we go. You know, there I just broke into that character and, you know, butchered it horribly. Moral argument, Nick. What about the moral argument? I don't know. I mean, if someone does a video on it and it comes up, you know, if I was to watch AMOD or something, I don't know.
To be able to sustain high-tech global civilization so that all the peoples of the world can hear the good news of salvation. Really, only a dogmatic insistence on a peculiar interpretation of a few Bible passages would ever cause any scientist to claim the universe as less than 10,000 years old. This has actually happened in several debates I've had with the presidents of different young earth creationist organizations.
Can we get this guy to debate Hovind? Seriously, can we get that? I want that.
It was a lawyer moderating the debate who asked, John Morris, the president of the Institute of Creation Research, do you know any scientist who agrees apart from a...
Oh yeah, moral argument is absolute garbage. Hands down. Straight up. You know. Top tier as in worst of the worst arguments for any kind of deity. Anything of the sort.
Particular Bible interpretation that the universe or earth is young. He said, no, I don't. Dwayne Gish said, in my 50 years, I've yet to meet a scientist, independent of a particular Bible interpretation, who's ever drawn the conclusion. So I mentioned at the beginning, this is not a scientific debate, it's a biblical debate. It's a matter of biblical interpretation. It's not a matter of biblical authority. Thank you.
Well, there's not much time left for the Q&A or whatever's supposed to follow this. I don't know how this is a heated debate. It just looked like clips from opening statements.
Well, those are the closing statements in my recent debate with...
Oh, they were closing statements, and that's just a clip from our friend Terry here. Okay. And doing PhD in geology.
Dr. Hugh Ross. Dr. Ross demonstrated exactly my point. He's using the secular scientific interpretations of nature based on their naturalistic assumptions to reinterpret the Bible. He said at the very end, this is a biblical debate. But notice, he didn't use the Bible to defend his view. And I want to encourage you to consider the rest of the debate. In my opening 20 minutes, I showed that contrary to Dr. Ross...
Okay, so you're telling me we watched the end of things, and the whole debate is somewhere out there. Well, we know what we're going to be watching sooner or later, don't we? Don't know when. It'll be whenever. Won't be today. Won't be today. But we'll definitely be getting to that. Let's let him finish up what he has to say, though, before we end the video completely.
The Bible does not say that nature reveals when and how the creation came into existence. But that's the way he is interpreting the natural world. So if you want to learn...
And I find that incredibly interesting that even people who very strongly believe in the Bible and reject a lot of other scientific principles still wind up sometimes accepting, to some degree, certain obvious pieces of evidence, not evidences, against those interpretations that are more strict, more reserved, more literal in the storytelling. That should be something that gives you a reason to think about things. Just the diversity in younger variants of young earth creationism is rather interesting, that there can be so many offshoots of this one fundamentalist philosophy. Makes you think. At least it should.
More, you can click on the links in the description. I've got a short article that exposes more about Dr. Ross's ever-changing dates for Adam, and then a longer article that looks at Genesis 5 and 11 and explains what the Bible teaches about when Adam was created.
There's the full, wow, I paused it right as it ended. So it's just like, nope, I'm done here. So there's the whole debate. How long is it? Let's just click and see. Okay, 2 hours and some change. 2 hours and some change. Okay. Okay. That ain't so bad. We can totally do that one of these days. I'm just gonna have to remember that. Um, all right. This was a short one. I just wanted to do a short one, kind of start the weekend off with not a bang, but with something. As always, thank everyone for stopping by. I'll schedule up something here in a little bit. I'm gonna go work on a few things. I'm thinking. I know we do Hovind all the time in this place, but I'm thinking about hitting the next video and his exchange between with him and Aaron Ra. Because I do want to wrap that up eventually. We're about halfway there. So, yeah, long stream to come here in a little bit.